My name is Colin Downey. I'm the Sales and Partnership Director for the Wild Hearts Group, and I'm delighted to be part of this online learning unit today, all about buying locally and impacting globally. So we sell products locally in the UK and more in countries like South Africa, Ghana and Botswana, but specifically that profit is created to develop a social impact both in the UK and in 40 countries globally. But more about that later. So on one hand, you can consider that the majority of our work is business as usual. We're looking to win contracts and services that companies are prepared to spend money on. But I'd argue that ultimately, because of what we do with the profit, and that profit being intrinsic to the DNA of our businesses, that it's not business as usual. In our work, it's becoming more and more obvious that from corporate perspectives, that although there is some amazing work in CSR departments globally, that the size and budgets of CSR programs are getting smaller and smaller. And there has been a definitive shift over the last 4 to 5 years of businesses starting to look at their supply chain spend, which in comparison to CSR budgets, dwarfs those budgets, that they can use that supply chain spend to create a social value if the social enterprise is capable of becoming their client or supplier. The slide that you can see on your screen right now gives you a very detailed insight into the scale of global financial flows. Towards the right-hand side, this one that's second in from the right is almost a dot that you can't see. And the total spend of FTSE 100 and Fortune 500 businesses is about $15 billion. When you look to the largest planet on the left-hand side, $23 trillion, that is the total value of the world's trade in goods and services. And the ultimate good that comes off the back of that is, in my opinion, the real opportunity for social enterprises in a modern-day global marketplace. That CSR is changing dramatically, and as budgets reduce, corporates and businesses and SMEs are all looking for ways to try and create a value-add situation out of budgets that they intend to spend on goods and services anyway. It's really imperative when you are working with procurement professionals. There are two distinct sides to your conversation. You must have a very strong and clear commercial argument to win that customer's client, because rest assured, you have no right to that customer's business just because you are a social enterprise and you have a social output. But equally, it's imperative that if that customer and potential customer is going to spend money with your social enterprise, you can clearly demonstrate the social outcomes that will come off the back of that spend. That is inherently how a social enterprise can differentiate itself from any of its normal commercial competitors. The graphic that you can see on your screen now illustrates to procurement professionals how we do this at the Wild Hearts Group. So on the left-hand side of the graphic, you can see our distinct businesses. We have Wild Hearts Office, which sells really mundane things like office supplies, pens, paper, toner cartridges, notebooks, for example. Everything from hygiene and cleaning equipment to small ladders to notebooks to lights, anything you can find in an office. And the profit, ultimately is going to impact on the right-hand side of this graphic some of our social outputs that the foundation delivers. But if your intent is to sell products and services to corporate or SME business, I would argue that it is virtually crucial that you can demonstrate a relationship that correlates between spend and social output. It is almost the reason that a procurement professional has to take to its business leaders, peers, and ultimately line managers. I will get X level of products and services. Crucially, it's not going to cost us a penny more, but I can also demonstrate a monetary value of value add. And that is almost the equivalent of what that company would spend, arguably what they would spend on their CSR services, you want to demonstrate how that budget is going to come out of the procurement spend. We can say quite clearly, and this is externally audited by our finance team and our external auditors, that for every £5,000 a company spends on any of Wild Heart's products and services, that then on the social side of our outputs, when that profit moves from the commercial side of our business into our foundation every year, we can demonstrate exactly how many lives will be impacted on the back of that spend. I would argue that this particular approach for procurement professionals is one of the most crucial things to get right in your discussions. After you've sorted your commercial elements, after you've shown that you've got great references and great service, the moment you can give them the power to show the impact they can deliver from spend that they were going to have to spend anyway, I would argue that's the crucial point in the negotiation that can often allow them to take it as a reason to switch suppliers. And I think it's very important that social enterprise appreciate that all commercial businesses rely on their success of their business is absolutely reliant on good suppliers. And if they have good suppliers in place, they are not going to just stop using a good supplier who they may have used for years or decades just because you've come along with a really great social output on the back of your argument. And I'd argue again that it's really crucial that you do everything you can to try and find that link between your corporate and commercial side of the business and the social side of the business and put it into a really nice infographic that your intended customer can understand very quickly. When me and my team are with procurement professionals, we outline to them the distinct service lines that they can buy from us. I'll be honest, we didn't start with all of these service lines, and we now have 9 distinct service lines that we ask procurement professionals to consider them buying from us. But we started with stationery, and every journey to development and building your business starts somewhere. So if you're not already diversifying into different service lines, I'd encourage you to be considering that right now, and make sure that you try and maximize the things that you sell every time you meet a procurement professional. There are very few Wild Hearts office customers who start buying stationery from us who 2 or 3 years down the line aren't then buying some printing services, aren't buying some catering services, aren't buying some hygiene services or doing some document management. So look at every conversation and every face-to-face meeting you have with a procurement professional as a way to sell them something else. You're looking to the future all the time. I have absolute respect for some of the amazing CSR programs that our customers have. But I would argue that social enterprises in supply chains goes much beyond this. This is advantages that happen with internal staff, reducing staff turnover, increasing your bottom line, finding a way to create CSR outputs from budgets that were going to be spent anyway. I think it's really imperative that when you are discussing how you can sell or provide a product and service to a corporate or to an SME business, you need to ask lots of questions. And my granddad used to have a really great phrase that he used to say, you don't learn anything when you're talking. And it's really important that you ask questions of a supplier to understand what it actually is that they need, because you should be honest with yourself and be sure that you do have a product and service that customer needs, and then you must demonstrate that you are capable of selling that product and service. And if something doesn't go right with a product or a service line, it will immediately come back to that procurement person and then immediately go into the internal workings of any business. They must be sure that you are the right supplier because the buck stops with them. I can't assume that a customer will buy from me because of our social impact. I have to demonstrate that we have warehouses and places that link to their business. I have to demonstrate that we can get products and service to them in a timely manner. I have to demonstrate that we have got the right controls and technologies in place that allow us to track and trace those improved deliveries. Once I have done all of that, I can probably then talk about the social side of our conversation again. But demonstrating capabilities is key. The Wild Hearts Group started very local, but has grown over the years to delivering both a local and a global impact through the Wild Hearts Foundation. The Wild Hearts Foundation is centred on 2 distinct social programs. Microfinance is not our idea. It was conceptualised and lauded in the late 70s and early 80s by Professor Muhammad Yunus in Bangladesh. And its simplest definition is lending money in a very safe forms of credit to some of the world's most rural people in order for them to invest that profit into businesses. Microfinance is not a panacea, but it is described as one of the most powerful tools in the developing world for the poor to help themselves. I'm very proud to have been around Wild Hearts microfinance investments ever since we started doing them many years ago, and I'm also very proud that now we have microfinance investments in over 40 countries globally. All of that has been created and delivered as a direct result of selling products and services on a local basis, delivering a global impact. One of the best ways for me to illustrate the impact of microfinance is to introduce one of our clients from Uganda.
I'm called Abiyobet. So my children, they are now well. They can go to school, I can pay their school fees, I can feed them well, I can dress them, even taking them to the hospital. They have now soft life than before.
In the UK, on a more local sort of social impact basis, the Wild Hearts Foundation created the multi-award-winning program Micro Tyco, which is a one-month enterprise education program that is free for schools, colleges and universities all across the UK and globally now.
I love making money for people that aren't as lucky as us, but Micro Tyco's taught me I can do that.
I learned that in business you have to be very organised, and I'm very organised.
Micro Tyco has taught me to never give up.
Because of Micro Tyco, I am now a global ethical investor.
Since our inception, it's great for us to show that our corporate customers that to date, the Wild Hearts Foundation has invested over £6 million and has also helped over 250,000 lives. Figures and numbers are imperative to moving conversations on with procurement professionals, and outlining your legacy is important as outlining steps that potential customer can take to coming on your journey, helping you be inspired by your impact and your foundation, but equally how they are in control and custodians of a budget that allows your stories of impact to become their stories that they can take home to their husbands, to their wives and to their children and feel like they've made a difference just while they are making a living. So once you've won customers, do everything you can to make powerful case studies, stories, and get permission to use those stories and logos to help you win the next customer and the next customer. Because rest assured, your social impact is going to be finite unless you continue to maintain your existing customer base and continue to grow that customer base into the future. And finally, as you progress in your social enterprise journey, I think it's really important that you try and win some awards, and equally you try and get some accreditations that come back to helping your customer to feel like you are the most capable supplier in your class. I think my two main takeaways from a social perspective is, if you are a social enterprise, I think it's really imperative that you can demonstrate clear capability and credibility if you're going to sell a product and service to a corporate supply chain. And from a procurement professional's perspective, you personally can take some of the stories of your social enterprises and your supply chain home. You can feel like you made the decision to work with a social enterprise. And I would argue that you need to sometimes go out of your way to find and embed social suppliers into your supply chain. It's very, very easy for you to stick with incumbent suppliers. They may not have done anything wrong, but equally they may not really be doing anything particularly innovative. The world will be an infinitely better place if social enterprise becomes much more mainstream. I hope you've learned a lot from this unit and some of my takeaways, and don't hesitate to get in touch if you'd like to learn anything further. Thank you.